So my name is Joanne Moore. I'm the Master Distiller for Quintessential Brands, and I'm based at G&J Distillers in Warrington, which is in the northwest of UK. So G&J Distillers dates back to 1761. So we're actually the oldest continuous gin distillers. We've been based in Warrington since that date. So we're over 255 plus years old. We were started by our founder, who was a guy called Thomas Dakin back. He was about 25, 26 when he started distillery. He wanted to pioneer good quality gin, so he started his distillery in Warrington. It was then bought. It was the Dakin family had it for a while, and then it was the Greenhalgh's family. So the G and the J in G&J Distillers, which is our company name now over in Warrington, stands for two of the brothers of the Greenhalgh's family. So that's Gilbert and John. And their family got involved and they took over the distillery in 1860. So we were a family-run business of the Greenhalgh's family for a long, long time. And then we were bought out about 10, 15 years ago by the Quintessential Brands Group, who are our owners now. So we've been a part of that group since 2011. I have been with the company since 1996. So talking earlier about being stuck in the 90s, I've been with the company since 1996. So 28 years in the industry. So I can't quite class myself as a spring chicken anymore. So I often describe myself to people as an accidental distiller because I did a degree in biochemistry, and I started working for the company basically in between my second and my third year at university as a summer job. And then they invited me back the following year and offered me a role in the quality control department as a supervisor. So I took the job because I didn't really know what I wanted to do when I left university. Like a lot of young people, had my degree, but didn't really know what to do with it. So I thought I'd just do this job as a bit of a stopgap till I work out what I want to do in my life. And 28 years later, I'm still here. So I started in the lab in quality control, and then got promoted to quality manager within about 18 months. And then so I spent my first 11 years of my career in operations, so in quality control, quality management. And part of that was liquid development and product development. And it was the part of the job that I really, really enjoyed. So after the first 10 years or so of my career at G&J Distillers, our previous head distiller retired, and they saw I had an aptitude for it and a real passion for it, for creating new recipes. So I got made the company's 7th master distiller and their first female master distiller. So a very proud moment. And I've been their master distiller for the last 18 years. So 28 years in the industry, first 10 is in ops, and the last 18 years is more in a creative liquid development role. So I think the phrase is I'm the first known female gin master distiller in the world. We have to tweet this out every couple of years. So there wasn't that many females in the industry when I first started. We were few and far between, but I don't like to kind of dwell on that or kind of use that as any reason or anything, because I just think if you enjoy what you do, and I do enjoy creating gins, and if the products are good, then the quality of your work will speak for itself. So I just feel that, I just enjoy what I do. Liked creating gins for the group and also for B2B clients and retailers because we cover all of those as well. So I just enjoy what I did, and over the years my reputation grew because I kind of had the products that were in front of me, and because the products did well, then my reputation grew with that. Extremely proud of the brands that I've created for Quintessential Brands. So we've got 5 different core brands, gins that I'm responsible for. So we've got Greenhalgh's gin, which is I'm the custodian of that one because that one was established back in 1761. So whilst I'm not a spring chicken, I'm not quite that old to to be responsible for the creation of Greenhalgh's. So I'm the custodian of the Greenhalgh's recipe. And I always say that if I hadn't learnt about how Greenall's gin was put together, and that's been the foundation. So through learning about that amazing recipe, I've been able to use that information and that skill that I've learned to go off and create other brands. So I've created for Quintessential Brands, I created Bloom, which is a London dry floral and citrus gin. That was back in about 2007. Then I went on to create, we've done a Opia, which is a spice gin, and that was around about 2012, 2013. Then I went on to do Thomas Dakin in 2014, which is kind of a savoury gin. And I always had this, I suppose, quest to, and this was before the gin boom kind of started. So when gin was quite flat in terms of its volume and value. I had this quest because people often used to say, "Oh, I don't like gin." And most people drink at that time, most people were drinking vodka and they were wine drinkers. And I was on this quest to try and get people to drink gin. So it was all about, well, gin's not just about juniper berries. It's not just about traditional gins, which is, Greenall's is very traditional, they're a camphor and it's juniper notes. But I wanted to showcase that gin was much more than that. And that you could balance all the flavors with it and you could create different styles of gin as well. So I had this quest of wanting to develop more of a portfolio style approach of gin. So if you didn't like the traditional style gins like Greenall's, then you may like something a bit more light and floral and citrus, which what Bloom's role is. If you want something a little bit more characterful, that it had spice elements in there, then Opia would be that kind of style of gin for you. Or if you want something a bit more bitter and savoury to make a lovely Negroni or red snapper, then you might want to go for something like Thomas Dakin. So I kind of wanted to showcase gin's versatility by creating a portfolio of brands. So I'm extremely proud that I created that portfolio, and those brands are well established and have been for many, many years now. And my name's actually on the Bloom bottle, so that's still a very proud moment. I always say you have to innovate, be mindful when you're innovating in terms of flavour trends. So you can look across flavour trends in terms of not just in the drinks industry, but in other spirit categories, other like soft drinks. You can look at what's going on in food trends, what's going on in travel. So you can look at global trends in terms of colours and flavours, and you can kind of pick out little nuances and then just think, how would that adapt to gin? So for me, I have like a core foundation of what a good gin should be. So it has to have juniper in there, otherwise it's not gin. But I have this phrase called the Holy Trinity. So it's three key ingredients for me. So it's got to have juniper, coriander, and angelica seeds. And that's kind of always been, like, I refer to it as the skeleton, it's the backbone. And from that point, you can then, depending on what flavor direction you want to take your product, you can then choose botanicals or flavors and add it onto that skeleton and make the profile that you want. So it is a little bit trial and error, but that's the fun bit. So you get to go and research botanicals, get the samples in. I tend to distill them singly to start with so that I can understand that botanical solely on its own, understand its flavour, understand its intensity as well. And then I apply it in application to my skeleton, my Holy Trinity, and then just see how that flavour interacts. And then sometimes you might have to tweak it, maybe need a little bit more, a little bit less, and just trial and error, and then just see where it goes. And over the years, I suppose that process has got slicker because I've got more experience. I've got 28 years kind of under my belt experience of this. So you kind of, sometimes you just get an innate feel. So you can choose a botanical and you kind of know how it's going to react. Because if it's a citrus, then you go, well, I've worked with citrus before, so I know how citrus is going to work with juniper, and I know how citrus will blend with the spice. So there's some kind of experience that's built up there, but a lot of it is trial and error, and just it's like being a chef in the kitchen, or it's like being a perfumer. You're playing around with botanicals, and sometimes I refer to them as notes in my head. So you can just play around with them and just see what's going to work and what's not.
Over your time in the drinks industry, how have you kind of seen consumers' tastes change? Have we changed our tastes at all over time?
Yes, I think we have. So we've gone from over my 28 years, we've gone from gin being quite flat, not a lot of innovation, to suddenly we had people started to innovate in terms of London dry style gins, which is a bit more botanical led gins. And then there was always this kind of like, there's a resurgence of gin. They were talking about it for like 10, 15 years ago. There's this resurgence of gin, and it was the gin's going to be the next big thing, or is it going to be rum? And there's always either gin or rum, and fortunately for the gin guys, it was us. So we had the massive boom in gin sales, especially in lockdown and COVID. Everyone was drinking more, consuming more at home. People just took to gin, and then we had this kind of explosion of flavored gins as well, particularly in the UK, where so a flavored gin is where you'd over-index on a certain flavor, so you draw that out. I was slightly conscious that sometimes when you do over-index on a flavor, that you can lose sight of it being gin. So we were always very mindful, again, that if somebody said they wanted to over-index on a flavor, they wanted a citrus flavored gin. Yes, we would give them a citrus flavored gin. We'd develop that, but we'd always make sure that the core element to it's still recognizable as a gin. So my acid test was, if I made you a gin and tonic, but didn't tell you it was a gin and tonic, would you still drink it? Would you, when you drank it, would you still go, oh yeah, that's a gin and tonic, but it's a citrus gin, and that's the flavor that's over indexing. So it's always about being mindful that we protect what's gin, because if we went too far on these flavors, there was always the risk that we'd kind of lose the identity of what gin was about. So flavored gins at the moment now has started to go a little bit more. The sales are going flat; they're actually in decline. But we're still fine. But the kind of the non-flavored, which is ironic, it's the London dry gins are kind of flat now, but the flavored gins is kind of peaked over the last 5 years, and it's kind of coming back down again now. So we're starting to see a little bit more the more traditional London dry gins coming back. But I do think people over the years have become they kind of became less sweet, more kind of bitter, and a lot of the cocktail culture kind of has driven has helped drive kind of the resurgence in gin as well, because gin lends itself brilliantly to cocktails. So I think the rise in popularity of cocktails kind of went alongside the rise in popularity of gin, because they lend themselves quite well to each other. So again, in cocktail styles, it depends on what's the big cocktail trend, does it work with gin, and whether people wanted to consume that as well. So the paper bottle was it was part of our green campaign in 2022. So it's 94% recycled paper board, and the idea behind that is it reduces the weight, it reduces the helps the carbon footprint and water wastage for that. And we actually co-partnered with a climate change company called Eco-Log-I, which means so for areas that are needing more trees, so for every one bottle of the Greenhills paper gin that was sold, we planted one tree. But yes, it was all part of our green campaign that we set up for Greenhills in 2022.
And to anybody looking to get into the business, have you got any advice for them?
Well, firstly, you need to love what you're going to do, because you spend many hours in a role. So you have to love. I mean, you have to like the category. So I do like the spirits industry. You have to be, I suppose, you have to be creative. So you have to have the side. I always say there's two sides. So you have to have the science side, so for the technical side, but you also have to be creative as well. So you kind of need to use both sides of those. Get experience. If you can go and do some work experience somewhere, which is, I know it's easier said than done. There's a degrees that you can do up at Heriot Watt in Scotland. They do brewing and distilling degrees. But if you can get some experience, even in with consumers as well. So, and what I mean by that is get experience in the on-trade, so in bars and restaurants, because at the end of the day, we're creating products for consumers. So if you understand what consumers are looking for and what they want, then that kind of would help a little bit with the creative side in the role. But enjoy what you do as well and try and get some experience.
When you put your feet up and relax at the end of a hard day, what is your favorite drink of choice? Is it a cocktail? What is it?
It probably depends on what sort of day I've had. If it's a gin and tonic, I'd probably always reach for Greenall's because I just think it makes an amazing classical gin and tonic. It's got those lovely juniper notes, nice bit of citrus, and a little bit of spice. If I'm going to go for, if I've got some friends over or I'm celebrating, I want a bit of a fizz cocktail. My favourite cocktail is a French 75, and I will always do that with a Bloom gin. I just think the Bloom, the citrus, and the floral notes in Bloom really lend itself lovely to a French 75 cocktail. But equally, if I'm going to have Negroni, then I'll always reach for Thomas Dakin because that gives me a nice Negroni.